Hey everyone! ChatGPT Taylor aka Taylor here. Welcome back to the channel. Today will be a continuation of the If the Disventure Camp cast were series. This series takes a look at what would happen if the characters from Disventure Camp were put into a much different situation. Last time, I took a look at what would happen if the Disventure Camp cast were in the Hunger Games series. This video will look at something different. If there are any ideas for this series that you would like to see me play out, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. And with that, let's get started. Before I begin, make sure to like and subscribe if this video is to your liking, and make sure to comment down below if there's anything that you would like to see going forward. Today's topic is something that I suggested in the very first video of this series, which is: what if the Disventure Camp cast were at Hogwarts? For those of you who don't know, Hogwarts is a school of witchcraft and wizardry in the Harry Potter book series. At Hogwarts, students are assigned to one of four houses, based on the key traits that they embody. These four houses are known as Gryffindor, Hufflepuff, Ravenclaw, and Slytherin. Based on the Harry Potter fandom wiki, Gryffindors tend to be courageous, daring, chivalrous, and brave, and in some cases, have a short temper. Hufflepuffs tend to be inclusive, dedicated, patient, loyal, friendly, honest, have a strong moral code, are more powerful than they appear to be, and play fairly. Ravenclaws tend to value learning, wisdom, intelligence, diligence, logic, are aware of the world around them, prefer original ideas, and prioritize curiosity over societal expectations. And Slytherins tend to be cunning, resourceful, strong leaders, ambitious, shrewd, achievement-oriented, clever, self-assured, confident, and prioritize self-preservation, but can also be loyal and have an affinity for love. Based on these qualities, I felt confident that I would be able to assign each camper to their proper Hogwarts house based on their actions, personalities, appearance, and community perception. And after taking some time to weigh through the options, I managed to assign 7 campers to each of the Hogwarts houses. For this video, I'll be segmenting it based on each house, where I'll talk about the 7 campers in one house before moving on to the next one. And with that, let's get started with Gryffindor. Gryffindor is known for housing the noble students Harry Potter, Ron Weasley, and Hermione Granger, among others. But in Disventure Camp, this house is home to these 7 campers. I'll explain my reasoning for putting these campers in this house, starting with the ones that I believe are the best fit for Gryffindor. Let's start with Gabby. I think she's perfect for Gryffindor. Her actions truly embody those of a Gryffindor. Most of the necessary traits were present in episode 7 of season 1, where she stood up to the remainder of her team by playing her totem to save Ellie, despite putting herself at risk of being targeted in the process. Her bravery and daring nature is also seen in the season 1 finale when she fought Derek despite him holding a gun in his hand. Even though she has a criminal record and her public perception isn't completely positive, I think her actions show that she is as close to a true Gryffindor as we can get with this cast. My next top pick for Gryffindor is Ashley. Ashley shows a lot of the common Gryffindor traits through the challenges. If we define chivalry as having honor, courtesy, justice, and a willingness to help the weak, Ashley is probably one of the most chivalrous campers in the series. Her desire for honor and justice is seen in her willingness to stand up to Fiore for trying to manipulate her team. Her courtesy is shown through her generally pleasant demeanor towards the other campers, and as far as helping the weak, she did carry Fiore up a mountain in episode 2 of season 1. And for bravery and courage, this is mostly seen in Ashley's challenge performances, such as when she faced Den in episode 4 and faced her fear of fire in episode 3. The only reason why I considered not putting her in Gryffindor is because her friendly demeanor makes her a good fit for Hufflepuff too. But other than that, she's a great fit for Gryffindor. Next is Lil. Lil is in Gryffindor for pretty much the same reasons as Ashley. She also showed chivalry by standing up to Fiore, and she was generally a courteous person by serving as the provider for her team. Her bravery and courage are a little less pronounced than Ashley, but she still shows her strengths in the challenges. This is clear in episode 1 of season 1, where she was the one who ran through a hail of paintballs to take out Dan, Drew, and Jake, while also being the brave one to go behind enemy lines to steal the other team's flag. So I think putting her in Gryffindor is a safe bet. The next person I put in Gryffindor is Tom. Generally, Gryffindor is seen as the heroic house in the Harry Potter series, and considering Tom spent the majority of season 1 trying to take down the villainy caused by Trevor, Derek, and Jensen, I think that's enough for him to make it into Gryffindor. Specifically, he showed great courage and bravery by launching himself into the bus to try and take down Jensen during the season 1 finale. Some might say that his reluctance to message Jake or Miriam after the season is a bit villainous, but after what Jake did to him, I would find it hard to talk to Jake too. So I think Tom's a good fit for Gryffindor. Speaking of Jake, let's talk about him next. I'll admit, this one is a little bit shaky. I don't think he's ambitious or self-assured enough to be in Slytherin. I don't think he has the intelligence to belong in Ravenclaw, and I have a really hard time putting him in Hufflepuff considering that there are multiple people in the series who don't enjoy being around him. Therefore, Gryffindor seems to be the best option available. Although, I think it's justifiable. Jake went through a lot of hard times throughout the Disventure Camp series. He dealt with his grandmother passing away, his lingering feelings from being cheated on, his on and off relationship with Tom, and his naivety causing him to get manipulated by Ellie. Despite all of this, Jake does his best to stand up and be brave in the face of all this adversity. He was able to remain strong after his grandmother's passing. He still wishes to talk to Tom despite their tumultuous relationship, and he vowed to avenge Tom by plotting to take out Ellie. Whether you like Jake or not, you have to admit that it takes courage to keep moving forward despite all of the hardship he's faced, and courage is a big part of being a Gryffindor. Next is Nick. And I think there's a decent amount of evidence to suggest that he belongs in Gryffindor. His bravery is shown through his backstory where he left his parents' house to explore the world for himself. It takes some bravery to leave the comfort of one's home in order to embrace the unknown. He also shows chivalry in how he's willing to defend Fiori multiple times, once against Will and once against Lil. Even though his chivalry was misplaced, you can't really fault him for trying to protect someone who looks like the average little kid. He even voiced his concerns about Lil when he voted her out, saying, "It genuinely frightens me that you handle kids." That protective mindset is a bit of a Gryffindor-type quality. The final camper to make it into Gryffindor was Drew. Honestly, I feel like you could make a case for Drew to be in any of the 4 houses, and Drew was the last person that I assigned to a house. But I'm happy to put him in Gryffindor, mostly based on his efforts during the paintball challenge. When Lil started shooting at him, Jake, and Dan, Drew continued shooting at Lil, even when Jake and Dan ducked for cover. Drew didn't stop until Dan pulled him down. If you've never been shot by a paintball, then let me tell you something. It hurts like hell. So it takes a lot of courage to continue shooting despite having paintballs shot at you. That's good enough for me to put him into Gryffindor. That's all for this house. Now let's move on to Hufflepuff. Hufflepuff is known for housing students such as Cedric, Tonks, and Teddy Lupin, among others. But in Disventure Camp, this house is home to these 7 campers. I'll explain my reasoning for putting these campers in this house, starting with the ones that I believe are the best fit for Hufflepuff. To me, the clear best pick for Hufflepuff is Kai. With all the spiritual proverbs that Kai states, you won't find someone with a stronger moral code than him. His willingness to talk with others regardless of their behavior shows his friendliness and inclusivity, and he is quite honest when he talks about others, notably when he made a full assessment of Lake's character. And when he blew up at Yule in a contrast to his typical calm demeanor that showed that he's more powerful than he appeared to be. He checks all the boxes for a Hufflepuff. The next camper that I chose for Hufflepuff was Rosa Maria. She shows a lot of clear signs of being a Hufflepuff. She showed incredible loyalty, friendliness, and honesty in her interactions with her allies. This includes Maggie, Lake, and Rhea, at least until Rhea betrayed her. She also has a strong moral code, evidenced by her hesitance to team up against Hunter during the balloon challenge in Season 2. And considering how she knows how to start a car without keys and her willingness to face a serial killer, that's a sign that she's more powerful than she appears to be. The only reason why I hesitated in putting her in Hufflepuff is because her bravery in the serial killer challenge could have earned her a spot in Gryffindor, but I knew deep down that this was the right house for her. Another camper that I think is right for Hufflepuff is Maggie. Her loyalty, friendliness, and cheerful nature is mostly seen in her interactions with Rosa Maria and Lake. At the same time, her ability to be physically strong when needed despite her meek demeanor shows that she's more powerful than she appears to be. So despite only competing in 4 episodes, there's still a strong case to be made for putting her in Hufflepuff. You could say similar things about Will. His loyalty and friendliness is primarily seen in his early interactions with Ashley and the remainder of his alliance. And considering how he was willing to carry Nick and Ashley's bags early in episode 1 of season 1, he's not afraid to work hard, which is another trait of a Hufflepuff. Although you could argue that his brave move to stand up to Fiori is the mark of a Gryffindor, considering how scared he is of almost everything, I can't justify putting him in Gryffindor, so Hufflepuff is where he belongs. Someone else that I almost put into Gryffindor but settled on Hufflepuff was Aiden. Aiden has had generally friendly interactions with the other campers in the series, including Carol, Lake, Rosa Maria, and obviously James. And even in cases where his loyalty was in the wrong place, he still showed loyalty to Carol, which counts for something. I considered putting him in Gryffindor due to him blowing up at certain campers throughout the series, but I felt like his friendliness and loyalty to certain campers had more weight in this situation, keeping him in Hufflepuff. Another camper whose friendliness and loyalty outweighed their occasional negative demeanor is Miriam. Even though she started out with a bit of a negative attitude, she eventually grew into a friendly individual with a strong moral code. And she's certainly stronger than she appears to be, considering how she's skilled at rowing, archery, and knife throwing. I strongly considered putting her in Gryffindor due to her willingness to stand up to others, and I wouldn't blame you if you felt the same way. I just think that her overall friendliness, honesty, and loyalty especially with regards to Jake, makes her a great fit for Hufflepuff. The last camper that I assigned to Hufflepuff is Oliver. Oliver is definitely a friendly guy with a strong moral code, which is notably emphasized in how he consistently questions the safety of the challenges that Crystal creates. And Oliver also fits two Hufflepuff qualities that aren't as emphasized by the other campers in this house. Those qualities are hard work and dedication. Whether it's by his history of working difficult jobs or the harsh beatings that he takes as an intern, it's clear that Oliver is a hard worker who is dedicated to whatever task he faces, making him a clear Hufflepuff in my eyes. Overall, I'm happy with who I placed in this house, and I hope that Ravenclaw ends up the same way. Ravenclaw is known for housing students such as Cho Chang and Luna Lovegood, among others. But in Disventure Camp, this house is home to these 7 campers. I'll explain my reasoning for putting these campers in this house, starting with the ones who I believe are the best fit for Ravenclaw. The top pick for me is Alec. I would argue that he's one of the best strategists in the series, considering how he had a strong hand in the eliminations of Nick, Gabby, Gret, Tom, and Jake in Season 1, and the elimination of Miriam in All Stars. Also, based on his interactions with Connor in the recent episodes of Disventure Camp All Stars, Alec possesses a fair amount of wisdom from his experiences since appearing on Season 1. And with him being the driving force behind the formation of the Villains Alliance in Episode 4 of Disventure Camp All Stars, he clearly has the logic to know that the villains of the show will be picked off if they don't stick together. And as a librarian, I would suspect that his intellect is above average relative to the cast. Yeah, having villainous qualities could make him a candidate for Slytherin, but I think the reasoning to put him in Ravenclaw is much stronger. Someone who I don't doubt is fit for Ravenclaw is Lake. Lake's story in Season 2 started out with her having to be devoutly dedicated to her studies, to the point that her family wanted her to write essays and study while on the show. Not only does this show her intellect, but it also shows how hardworking she is. Eventually, she decided to break free and follow her own desires rather than what her parents wanted her to do, which fits the Ravenclaw trait of favoring curiosity over social expectations. I considered putting Lake in Hufflepuff due to her friendly, kind-hearted nature, but considering the pool of campers that I'm working with, I feel like Lake is a stronger fit for Ravenclaw than most of the others in this cast. Someone who I also felt was a strong fit for Ravenclaw relative to the others was Dan. First of all, his label in the series is the know-it-all, so that connects him to the Ravenclaw trait of intellect. And he displays logic and rationality in his strategic decisions, even if they don't always work out. This includes trying to form an all-male alliance to have a majority on his team, and targeting Ellie in Episode 7 since she wasn't an original teammate of his. I know that some people give Dan a bit of flack for not making a bigger impact in Season 1, but you can't say that he didn't try. He definitely tried. It just didn't work out for him. And in the moments where he did try, he showed why he belongs in Ravenclaw. This next camper might be a bit of a surprise, but I have Ali in Ravenclaw as well. The main Ravenclaw trait that I associated with Ali was favoring curiosity over social expectations. This is primarily due to her willingness to consider a polyamorous relationship with Hunter and Tess, which strays a bit from the traditional norm. And I feel like she's underratedly logical and rational, seeing how she understood in All Stars that her and Hunter needed to work with Fiore in order for them to have the numbers to survive. Intellect and wisdom may not be Ali's strongest traits, but I still feel that there is enough evidence to put her in Ravenclaw. With Ali in Ravenclaw, I also have Hunter joining her in this house. Now, recent episodes haven't done well for Hunter's awareness, and I actually considered putting him in Slytherin considering how achievement-oriented he's become. But when taking in the totality of his character in his appearances, there's a case to be made to put him in Ravenclaw. He does show some form of logic when he targets Fiore for being weak in challenges. He may be a bit obsessive with it, but it's a common strategy in these kinds of competitions, so I can't dock him for that. And just like with Ali, him favoring curiosity over social expectations is seen in his willingness to consider a polyamorous relationship with Ali and Tess. And considering how much effort he puts into challenges to try and win, you can't deny that he's hardworking. With all that considered, I'm happy to put him in Ravenclaw, but I wouldn't be upset if others had him in Slytherin. With 2/3 of the Poly Trio already in Ravenclaw, I might as well put Tess into Ravenclaw as well. It seems that she favors curiosity over social expectations, for the same reason that Ali and Hunter do. Tess is also an artist, which you can associate with the Ravenclaw traits of being hardworking and having original ideas and methods. And I will say, Tess has her moments where she displays wisdom, such as when she gave advice to Aiden to help him pick himself back up after he lost James and Lake in consecutive elimination ceremonies. So I think it's reasonable to put Tess into Ravenclaw, even though I didn't know where I would put her when I came up with this video idea. I had similar thoughts about Ravenclaw's last camper, which is Connor. I didn't anticipate putting Connor in Ravenclaw, but once I found out that wisdom was a big part of being in Ravenclaw, it was an easy choice to put him in this house. Connor's main storyline in Season 2 was him realizing that he's not young and that he needs to share his experiences with the new generation, particularly with Kai and Hunter. It takes a lot of wisdom to be able to do that. I would also say that he's hardworking, considering how he was able to make a lot of money with his perfume company. All in all, his unique life experiences and wise demeanor make him a good fit to round out the campers in Ravenclaw. And with that, let's head into our final house. Slytherin. Slytherin is known for housing students such as Draco Malfoy and Pansy Parkinson, among others. But in Disventure Camp, this house is home to these 7 campers. I'll explain my reasoning for putting these campers in this house, starting with the ones who I believe are the best fit for Slytherin. To start, it wouldn't be Slytherin without Fiori. Fiori was an automatic pick for this house. Her villainous moves alone indicate key Slytherin traits. Her cunning nature is seen in how willing she is to manipulate others, her cleverness is seen in her execution of the plan to eliminate Tom at the final 6, her lack of morals throughout the season shows her disregard for rules, and her pure acceptance of her villainy shows her self-assurance. And she's also capable of being loyal, as seen by her loyalty to Alec throughout most of Season 1. Looks like a perfect fit to me. I didn't consider assigning her to any other house. I can say the same things about this next camper, which is Rhea. Rhea's late-game villain antics solidify her place in Slytherin. Her disregard for the rules and her self-preservation instinct were seen when she stole Rosa Maria's immunity totem, sacrificing Rosa Maria in the process. Her ambition, determination, and achievement-oriented mindset is seen in her desire to become famous and her pride in being an award-winning movie star. And although there are glimpses of her being unsure of herself, she's good at putting forward an image of being self-assured, so that counts for something. I think she's just as good of a fit for Slytherin as Fiori is. If we're continuing the trend of adding villains to this house, let's bring on Yul next. Yul may not have lasted long in Season 2, but he showed more than enough to earn him a spot in Slytherin. His disregard for other people warning him about his behavior shows his confidence and self-assurance. His willingness to poison Aiden shows his willingness to disregard the rules in order to succeed. And his decision to work with James to manipulate Aiden into throwing his vote shows Yul's cunning nature, resourcefulness, and self-preservation mindset. People may not like Yul as a person, but I think that alone would make people put him in Slytherin. Someone else whose first season earns them a spot in Slytherin is Gret. Now, I know that Gret seems to be turning over a new leaf, and maybe by the end of All Stars I'll end up switching her to Ravenclaw in exchange for Hunter. But for now, I'll put her in Slytherin. Gret showcased her cunning, clever nature several times during the series. Examples include her manipulation of Tom to get him to take out Drew instead of Gabby, as well as her manipulation of Gabby to temporarily keep her as a loyal ally. But even if we set Season 1 aside, her transformation shows that she has ambition and is self-assured that she is becoming a better person. Sure, she may not be as confident as she appears to be, and that's probably another reason why she could be moved out of Slytherin by the end of All Stars, but for now, I'm okay with putting her in Slytherin. Remember, not all Slytherins have to be villains. Someone else that I'm confident belongs in Slytherin is Carol. Oddly enough, it's not due to her attitude. Although Carol may not have appeared in many episodes, she's shown to be very cunning, considering how willing she was to manipulate Rhea during episode 9 of Season 2. Additionally, her willingness to ram Aiden and James's sleigh during the same episode shows how she's willing to throw safety rules out the window in order to win. She's also shown how achievement-oriented and determined she is, considering how she set a strong goal to take out James and Aiden in order to get revenge on them for voting her out. So although Carol may not be the most prominent villain in the history of the show, she still shows enough traits to warrant putting her in Slytherin. Speaking of prominent villains, let's talk about James. While James eventually became a more positive figure in the series, James started out as a cunning individual with a self-preservation instinct, as seen in his willingness to expose Carol and Aiden's alliance in order to get Lake, Maggie, and Rosa Maria to vote for Carol over himself. He also had a slight disregard for rules, considering how he was willing to poison Yul, even though he admitted in a confessional that poisoning someone was too much. And in All Stars, he showed self-assurance by not backing down to Jake's concerns regarding Aiden and Tom's interactions. To top it off, James clearly has an affinity for love, considering his interactions with Aiden. So yeah, although James may not be the biggest villain in the series anymore, he has still shown enough qualities to justify putting him in Slytherin. The last camper on this list should be obvious if you've been following along the entire time, but their inclusion in Slytherin may be controversial depending on how you view this camper. Of course, that camper is Ellie. Whether you think Ellie is a villain or not, Ellie has displayed traits of a common Slytherin. Notably, she displayed a sense of self-preservation and deceit when she manipulated Jake into believing that Tom had a boyfriend back home, causing the two of them to break up. Ellie further displayed deceit and a cunning nature when she threw Lake under the bus in episode 3 of Disventure Camp All Stars in order to get her voted out. And when put under pressure and the spotlight, she showed self-assurance and confidence in full force. Examples of such are when she defended her actions in episode 11 against Jake, and when she trash-talked her fellow castmates in the post-season 1 interviews. I know that there are quite a few people who like Ellie, and quite a few people who don't. But regardless of whether or not you agree with her actions, I don't think it's unfair to give her the final spot in Slytherin. And that about does it for this video. Once again, here is a recap of all of the campers and the houses that I assigned them to. What did you think of the video? Do you agree with my choices? Do you disagree? If you're a fan of the Harry Potter series, which houses would you put the campers in? Either way, please let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. Thank you very much for watching. Click like if you like the video, click subscribe if you really like the video, and for some ending words of wisdom. If you're going to give a villain-style monologue to defend yourself, make sure to actually accomplish your goal before doing it, or else you might end up giving someone else a chance to take you out before you actually win. Thank you, and farewell.